This video is in part made possible by NordVPN. Imagine waking up and finding yourself lying in the middle of a blindingly white chamber. You can't escape and you're being tortured for hours. In this video, we will follow how you can beat this new age torture cell, the mistakes made by the characters, and how you can avoid them and beat the white chamber in the movie White Chamber. Let's go! NordVPN is a leading VPN provider that makes sure that you stay anonymous when browsing the internet. With its newly added features, it is now an even stronger ally. As a movie guy, I often, sometimes just for fun, browse different local movie offers by simply switching between different regions. In my experience, it's one of the only VPN providers that has reliably and consistently worked with avoiding region-based censorship. It is a highly regarded VPN service in the industry, and next to my own experiences with it, I am glad to see that some of the biggest YouTubers on the platform share my positive views on it. If you don't currently own a VPN, make sure to check out their current limited time offer via the link in the description, and with our promo code BINGE, you gain even further discounts. That is nordvpn.com/binge and get 4 months off with a 30-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. Special thanks to NordVPN in supporting the channel and getting our viewers this awesome deal. The film opens by showing the near future of the UK. As described by a male voice, the UK is in total anarchy. Martial law has been declared and the kingdom has been thrown into a civil war between the country's military and the Revolutionary United Kingdom Liberation Army led by citizen General Zakarian. However, we swiftly cut to a random woman waking from unconsciousness in a bright white chamber, slightly reminding us of a padded panic room. However, in this case, the walls, the floor, and the ceiling are not padded. In fact, they seem to be either made from glass or metal or some, acrylic kind of material. It also looks to be a doorless cube from the inside, which bears the question, how did she get in there? If the structure is truly doorless, which at this point is still difficult to say, then this would mean that the cube was placed over her, right? Which would indicate that the walls are not attached to the floor. Interesting. A distorted voice basically brings her to her senses. She is offered chocolate in a box, which is kind of nice, and is told that the chocolate is perfectly fine to eat. The chocolate is being slided into the room through a white box on the side of the cube. That's interesting because this seems to be the only way in or out of this cube. Let's keep that in mind for now. Now obviously, having been kidnapped, there is no reason to believe anything this voice tells you. So eating anything that is offered is probably not a good idea. I would wait as long as possible with consuming anything that is offered to me. Now the voice continues with demanding information from her that she claims she doesn't have. But her captor is obviously not convinced, and he has good reason not to be convinced, as we will get to know in a short second. Now with this, he starts a torture sequence that is actually pretty interesting. The first thing he triggers is a raise in temperature. Nothing special, I know. Now the temperature is only raised to about 33 degrees Celsius. That's roughly 91 degrees Fahrenheit for my Americans. That in itself is not very high, certainly not too dangerous, right? However, what happens when humidity levels are raised is quite intriguing. You see, humans regulate their internal body temperature mainly by sweating. A sweat evaporates on the skin and transfers energy, in our case heat, from the body into the atmosphere. This in return cools you down. However, in humid areas where the air is already filled with a lot of water molecules, the sweat vapor that is normally aiming to transfer heat into the atmosphere has no place to evaporate to, causing a stagnation of heat transfer, causing the internal body temperature to rise faster than it can decline. This, obviously thinking about saunas, can be very beneficial, for short time spans that is. However, over the course of hours, you will likely die a pretty nasty death. Lying on the floor with your back against the floor is probably the preferred way to stay sane in this environment. Hot air is lighter than cool air, so the floor is your best friend. Secondly, your elevated pulse will make things pretty uncomfortable, so you don't want to increase the pressure of your heart by putting pressure on it by laying on your chest. Makes sense. Anyway, after being tortured like that for a good few minutes that most Finnish people would shrug off as a light pre-sauna session, she is bombarded with a new set of questions, to which she again claims to have no answers to. This time though, he decreases the temperature to below 0. In response to that, she stands up, takes off her clothes, and starts moving excessively. I don't think I need to explain why that is a good idea. However, going back to my Scandinavian people, they would probably interpret this whole thing a whole lot different than being tortured. Almost like as if you were invited by a friend. The unusual thing about this woman is the way that she responds to all of that. In an earlier scene, she claimed to be just an ordinary admin girl, delivering documents and such. However, the way she conducts herself is rather formidable, no? A few moments pass and this white box slides in again, but this time with a severed hand inside, still wearing a watch. She seems to recognize this hand quite well, showing that there is more to her than she cares to admit. At this stage, her captor reveals himself to her as well, showing that he is General Zakarian, the head of the UKLA. Then he begins to torture her again, but this time by electrocution. Hell yeah. She is standing barefoot on a metal surface, which probably doesn't help a whole lot. And unless you are this Magnus Midpo guy, also from Scandinavia, sorry, I've been watching a lot of Scandinavian movies lately, so unless you're this guy, you won't be able to escape these shocks by sticking to those walls. But it doesn't even end here. After this torture session, Zakarian unleashes a cannibal on her. That's right, a human cannibal magically appears and attacks her as if she was Will Smith. The monster attacks her and bites her neck, but with the help of the severed finger she found before, she stabs the monster into its eye, killing it in the process. That's right, people. Stop rubbing your eyes with your fingers. You could accidentally kill yourself. Beware. Now finally, we get a little bit more background info that enlightens us a little bit more about what's going on, because so far it's been rather messy. 5 days earlier, a young woman named Ruth, an administrative assistant, had been recruited for a job within the government. She is to assist a secret experiment where they explore various tests on live subjects within white cuboid chambers. Basically, this right here. 3 other people work in that facility with her. We got Sandra, one of the assistants, Dr. Edgar Chrysler, and the great Dr. Chrysler herself. Yes, which is the woman in this white chamber in front of us. So technically, she had built this lab herself, and the person she previously tortured was Zakarian, the dude who is after her right now. So it seems like it's your average Joe's revenge story. Let's continue. Dr. Chrysler would torture him with extreme cold and hot showers. However, he seemed to be immune to this completely. Even after increasing the temperature so high that he would literally burn, he didn't mind at all. The reason for that is the new drug that Dr. Chrysler's lab is developing. After the experiments, she takes Ruth back to the lab where she shows her the new revolutionary type of amphetamine named Argo. She tells her that this is a drug that they have been given to Zakarian, which explains why he hasn't responded to any of the pain stimuli presented. By day 2, Zakarian realizes that he has been given drugged food, so he denies eating whatever food slides his way. But Chrysler knows other ways on how to drug him. She releases a poisonous gas into the chamber which, inescapable in nature, catches anyone inside. She then requests Ruth to electrocute the subject, to which she hesitantly follows suit. Zakarian seems to be okay and doesn't feel a thing, which again is due to the drug affecting his sensory capabilities. However, as the intensity increases, Zakarian begins to react, indicating that there is a natural limit to the drug. Now one might think, how far can a human go strength-wise if pain is not an issue? I mean, most people can't punch a concrete wall as hard as they could because they expect to be in severe pain afterwards. However, if pain sensation is completely gone, how far could we go? In addition to that, amphetamines have shown to increase physical strength of subjects. Perhaps this very drug could lead to a successful escape. This, however, is more speculation than any noteworthy strategy. Anyway, as Chrysler explains to Zakarian about his modified pain threshold, he figures out who she is. He begins to aggravate her by discussing her deceased brother, indicating that there seems to be a connection between the two. Now Chrysler is provoked, obviously, and therefore orders Ruth to increase the current, which raises the possibility of organ failure, which reveals pretty convincingly that Zakarian is more than just a test subject to her, and that her tests, at least to some extent, aren't as important as just torturing this guy. It's a pretty basic plot. Now things heat up between her and Dr. Edgar as he notices a shift in her priorities. Later, he explains to Ruth why Chrysler is behaving this way. He tells her that he is her father and that his son, and therefore her brother, was assassinated by the UKLA. Moreover, her husband joined the UKLA as well and was killed in a battle too. Now on the 4th day, a new subject is introduced. It's Zakarian's girlfriend. A transparent wall separates them, and the crazed doctor drugs her now too and tests her pain threshold. But instead of heat treatment, she is showered with acid instead. Talk about vengeful scientists. This time though, Ruth protests. On day 5, Zakarian's condition seems to get worse. All that he can think of now is receiving another load of the drug, proving that even though highly effective in suppressing pain, the drug seems to be extremely addictive, turning anyone into mindless zombies. He eventually sees his girlfriend in an absolutely devastating state, her skin burned by the acid and her brain processed to mush due to the exorbitant amount of drugs she had ingested. I am guessing that Dr. Chrysler has given her more than Zakarian to make him feel the pain of losing someone just as she had. Zakarian's girlfriend wants to feast upon him, but a distraction causes her to
No!
Now Ruth can't take more of it and speeds over to the chamber. She exclaims that Chrysler has done it all for revenge and that this has made her a monster. Upon bringing up the death of her brother and husband, Chrysler becomes even more angry, causing her to stab her assistant, Ruth, with a scalpel. Dr. Edgar tries to help and puts direct pressure onto the wound to stop the bleeding. Moments before her death though, she releases Zakarian with her last energy. He immediately knocks out Chrysler and runs to get more doses of Argo, the drug. This causes him to lose his mind even quicker and develops a cannibalistic tendency just like his girlfriend before. Now he jumps down to feast upon Chrysler, but Edgar stabs him to stop him. Now a huge mess breaks out, continuing the strange void of this whole plot, and eventually culminates with another Zakarian entering the scene. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the ultimate plot twist. So the OG Zakarian dies in this new guy's hands, while he orders his men to put Chrysler into the chamber. After torturing her for quite some time, he opens the chamber and she walks out with the scalpel in her hand. She probably picked it up when Zakarian was devouring her father. The masked man now turns out to be Zakarian's twin brother, so hence there is a resemblance, right? He grabs a bunch of nuts and throws it at her. And because she has a severe nut allergy, she reacts quite heavily to that attack, which is the most ridiculous attack I have seen in cinema history, my friends. Now, she almost dies, but he blackmails her with the antihistamine to stop her allergy reaction and pressures her into producing more Argo, but this time obviously for him. The first thing she takes out to make Argo is malus mercury, which is a slow poison, and intends to poison him and his troops slowly. However, to be honest, we will never know, because this movie ends on a cliffhanger that I don't really like. The future of the UK is, well, lies in the stars, I guess. Well, thanks for watching. Catch you guys again next week. Peace out.